Chapter 918, Guesses and Ideas. Colleen City, inside the inn. Klein sat on a reclining chair, reaching out to receive the black tea with lemon from Winner Enzo. Beside him, Admiral Hell Ludwell stood straight, wearing a mask with a rapier by his waist. He appeared like the most loyal guard. Only at this point in time did Klein, who had completely calmed down, have the mental capacity to analyze what had happened in Death's mausoleum. Amongst all of that, what he paid most attention to was the existence that had helped Mr. Azik get out of his predicament at the critical moment and provide him with three choices. First, a female voice. Second, this matter is definitely advantageous to her. Otherwise, no one would cross such a great distance to provide assistance. Of course, if she happened to pass by and had helped Mr. Azik out of goodwill, that's also completely understandable and acceptable. But the problem is that the mausoleum is a product formed from Death's godly powers when he perished, a product of the characteristic, corpses, and the natural environment. Without the corresponding key, even deities can't find it. With a door that cannot be opened, how is it possible for anyone to be passing by? Also, Mr. Azik's actions had been very sudden. He didn't first seek out the members of the numinous episcopate that are carrying out the artificial death project for information. He directly followed the calling and arrived at the Berserk Sea and entered Death's treasure trove. If it's not someone who can locate me or him, or them being someone who has a strong prescient ability, there's almost no existence that can arrive in such a timely manner. Finally, the Salinger that can revive via Mr. Azik's body is almost certainly the I'm mad, but I'm stronger Death from the fourth epic. That female voice directly addressed him by his name without showing any signs of respect. As Klein seriously analyzed the information, he suddenly had a theory, but he couldn't help but avoid the possibility. Based on what he knew, the Evernight, Death, and Giant Beyonder pathways were a group of its own. They could be interchanged at high sequences. And other than using the honorific name of Lady of Crimson or some special Grade 0 sealed artifact to occupy a portion of the moon's authority, the goddess also had the title Mistress of Repose and Silence. That totally pointed to the underworld and Death's domain. And back at the foggy town, and with his use of the holy sword to make a vow with the goddess bearing witness, as well as the goddess clearly possessing the authority of misfortune, it made Klein believed that he had entered her special watch list, just like how he singled out certain believers using the sea god scepter. Making a bold assumption and seeking careful verification, then almost all the questions can be answered if she really was the goddess. As one of the 7 orthodox deities, as one of the winners of the Pale Era, she has the level and right to address Death by his name. And having been labeled by her, once anything abnormal happens, such as me entering a strange place like Death's treasure trove, she would definitely sense it and take the necessary action in response. Furthermore, as it definitely requires some time, she didn't manage to stop it at the beginning. To her, that artificial death, or the death pathway's uniqueness that had initially come to life, clearly enhances her authority in the aspects of repose and silence. It might even allow her to directly intrude into Death's domain, just like what the Mother Tree of Desire did to the chained god. When Death perished, the 3 sequence 1 characteristics should have automatically separated. It's unknown who received them. If the goddess is searching for them, perhaps ruler of the ancient underworld, Lady of all the undead, will be added to her title. Although Mr. Azik has been pursued by the church's high-sequence Beyonders, he has ultimately never suffered any real threats. From the looks of it, the goddess has been waiting all this time for today's development. Upon coming to this realization, Klein suddenly felt a little frightened. He was rather pious. At the very least, he superficially raised his right hand in a pious manner. Tapping 4 spots in a clockwise manner on his chest, he formed the sign of the crimson moon and muttered, "Praise the Lady." This made him recall the answer he received when he asked Snake of Fate, Will Ossipton, about obtaining the high-sequence Beyonder potion formulas of the Seer pathway. Can only be obtained from the Crazy Zeratul or the Hornisus mountain range. If you are the blessed of the Evernight, treat it as though I didn't say it. After the incident at the foggy town, Klein had already discovered that heading to the Hornisus mountain range and finding Xeritol was the same choice. Even stealing the Antigonus family's notebook from St. Samuel Cathedral's basement was the same. And up to this date, he realized that the second line was not without meaning. He stroked his chin and muttered, "Perhaps, maybe, possibly, I'm really considered a blessed of the Evernight." Towards this, Klein wasn't too unreceptive to it. On the one hand, he had spent the first few months after coming to this world with the Church of Evernight's Tingen Nighthawks team. He had a group of great teammates and colleagues. He had a rather heartwarming life and acceptable ideals. To this day, he still recalled the past. Therefore, although he wasn't a worshipper of the Evernight goddess, he was very accepting of this deity. On the other hand, at least on what he had seen to date, the Evernight goddess had yet to show any ill intent. Instead, she had given him some blessings. Klein believed that since he had been specially marked, it was unlikely that he could be free from it any time soon. All he could do was learn to accept it and make good use of it. Of course, I can't let down my guard. In addition, I already have too many enemies in the form of the Mother Tree of Desire, True Creator, Primordial Demoness, Primordial Moon, Blasphemer Ammon, Angel of Fate Ouroboros, and others. Some of them might even be able to get a hold of my location at any time. Without finding someone powerful to cozy up to, my future will really be difficult. With so many things on his plate, Klein quickly adjusted his state of mind. To him, as long as the goddess had labeled him from the moment he made the vow using the holy sword, and not earlier, as well as not constantly monitoring him, he found it acceptable. At least from the special labels afforded to me by the Sea God Scepter, constant monitoring isn't possible. Mr. Azik will be sleeping for a very long period of time. The goddess can't just do a divine descent as she pleases. There must be some corresponding obstacles and difficulties. Otherwise, the 7 orthodox deities would have made divine descents all across the world to resolve all kinds of problems. That's why I should keep a low profile and behave myself in the southern continent. I shouldn't try to pin my hopes on an external factor. Klein reminded himself before scrutinizing his new marionette, Admiral Hel Ludwell. To be frank, he was rather curious about the face hidden beneath the silver mask. But upon recalling how there was an anomaly when Ludwell took off his mask in their previous battle, he held back his thoughts. He planned to make the attempt again after he left the city and did it in the woods or somewhere uninhabited. After some work, Klein gained a rough understanding of his new marionette sequence and powers. Ludwell was Sequence 5 Gatekeeper of the Death Pathway, and he wasn't a normal human. The corresponding Sequence 9 was Corpse Collector. Back in Tingen, Klein had already learned of its specifics. He knew that they possessed certain traits of a corpse. Their entire being appeared rather cold and grim, and their body temperatures were relatively low. This allowed them to avoid being attacked by dead, unintelligent spirits. At the same time, they also had their physical bodies enhanced. They gained resistance to the cold, decay, and corrosiveness of cadaveric auras. They were naturally equipped with spirit vision, and they understood the characteristics and weaknesses of undead creatures. Sequence 8 was Gravedigger. Corpse collectors who advanced to this sequence become stronger. Their spirit vision was further enhanced as their agility increased. They were able to communicate with nearby spirits, allowing them to provide the Beyonder with help. Other than that, Gravediggers could quickly find the weaknesses of unfamiliar undead creatures and spirit world creatures via observation. This was known as the Eye of Death. Sequence 7 Spirit Medium was a qualitative change. Beyonders of this sequence gained knowledge of various kinds of mysticism, rituals related to spirits. They could directly communicate with the natural spirits and loitering dead souls in the real world. Hence, they had informants everywhere. At the same time, they could use different spirits to actualize different kinds of magic, creating various kinds of supernatural phenomena in a rather multifaceted way. Sequence 6 Spirit Guide and Sequence 5 Gatekeeper didn't experience a qualitative change from Spirit Medium other than an increase in the range for communication. Spirit Guides began involving themselves with the spirit world as they began hiring messengers and receiving the help of certain spirit world creatures. Gatekeeper could sense the entrance to the underworld, allowing them to control the dead spirits inside, doing so as though they watched over the gates that separated the dead from the living. From spirit medium onwards, with the advancement of each sequence, the quantity and quality of natural spirits, undead creatures, spirit world creatures that the Beyonders could control and order increased exponentially. Spirit Guide gained the use of the additional language of the dead that circumvented the protection provided by one's physical body. Focused on the ability to communicate with a spirit body, the ability was enhanced to giving an order, to the point of slavery. Gatekeepers could even open the mysterious gate that separated life and death to a certain extent, opening the gates to the underworld. If it wasn't for the natural restraints that Azek's copper whistle had on the corpse collector pathway's control over spirits, I probably wouldn't have even had what it takes to fight Admiral Hell back then. And even now, if not for traveling to ensure my safety, I might not be able to finish Ludwell off, even if I used demigod-level powers. In the future, I have to take note when taking revenge on Nsi Zangwill. He was once a gatekeeper, after all. Klein nodded slightly, raised the cup, and drank a mouthful of black tea. As for the weapon Ludwell had, it was named Harris Rapier. It originated from a prince from the southern continent in ancient times. It didn't directly correspond to any sequence or pathway. It was more of a product that was similar to King of the North Ulison, who gathered similar characteristics without any proper rules. It only had one Beyonder power, bringing absolute destruction to the items it stabbed. As a pirate admiral with the highest bounty, Ludwell didn't only have this mystical item. Unfortunately, his most precious death ring had been taken by Azek. As for the silver mask on him, Klein temporarily had no way of taking it off for research. Also, he really doesn't like money. He has zero need for money. Klein lowered his cup and retracted his gaze. Considering how it was still early, he planned on leaving Colleen City and heading elsewhere to wait for Danitz to finish his investigations.